The Panthers returned home on Thursday night, and although they fell short, there was a lot of standout performances, including a rookie's first NHL point.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday, October 18th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. So you can do that by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. So, Florida Panther fans, grateful to be back here on the show to discuss more of everything in the world of the Florida Panthers as they return home for a quick 3-game homestand after spending the last 4 on the road. And the Vancouver Canucks, a team that made the second round last year after falling in 7 games against the Edmonton Oilers last year. The Vancouver Canucks were never the Panthers never led in this one, but after a performance for the first period where it was really defensively tight, the game opened up 2 goals in 11 seconds apart, 3 replay reviews, and a very thrilling finish for this, even though it was the Panthers in a losing effort here on the night from Italian night from Emirates Bank Arena. And here joining me on this edition of the show, it is a Friday, which means it is a Fairbanks Friday edition of the show. Nich Fairbanks is here. Nick, 3-2 overtime loss for the Panthers, but with all the individual performances, the coaching staff seemed unbothered, and I'm quite unbothered. How about you?
Much better effort than the game in Buffalo, in my opinion. And on top of that, you have to be encouraged with what the team's been able to do the last couple of games, and especially how they're able to overcome what they were able to tonight and actually get a point.
Yeah, and for the Panthers, we were discussing a little bit of this pre-recording, and it feels like the Panthers were on the verge of stealing one for with the amount of chances that they were getting on their end of the ice, especially before the second TV timeout. It was really the telling one for this one. But I mean, you think about for this one, this game had 3 replay reviews, not 1, not 2, but 3 replay reviews. The first one, which was obvious that Teddy Bluger scored on Sergei Bobrovsky after Gadjovich was fighting on a check for him, and then he scores on that one, which Jonah Gadjovich, the Panthers also were down to 11 forwards in this one, technically 10 with Uvis Belinskis playing forward, but also the response 11 seconds later on a dump in, Mackie's first to the puck, and then creating on a wraparound, and then Jesper Boquist finishing for Mackie's first NHL point. So great individual performance by Mackie Samoskevich, and also the amount of possible breakaway opportunities that just didn't connect tape to tape at times in this one. You just see how much he's able to just that first step for him, and just how he's able to just activate when he's going north south for him. I'm even though he hasn't scored, I really great moment for him to get his first point for him.
It was huge for the game. I mean, you had what looked like a game-saving save to say by Bobrovsky, and the replay did show that the puck did cross the line, and it is what it is. Some people say that the refs are in favor of Florida. Well, I don't know so much anymore now, if that was ever the case. But the fact that Samoskevich was able to win that puck and then try to do a wraparound and able to get a deflection off that right over to Boquist, perfect response. Florida needed that, especially with how they started the game. and it helped Bob out. I feel, the fact that, that puck went in, it could have rattled them, but the fact that the team was able to come back and get that quick goal, it kind of reset everything and just said, hey, you guys may be one of the top teams in the West, and we're down two of our top players, but it doesn't mean that we're going to be an easy play tonight.
Yeah, and then for that one with the Panthers and them towards that end of that period, which they didn't allow a single shot on goal on the penalty kill for them. I mean, you think about outside of Anton Lundell scoring on the power play. I mean, how the big assignments that he was assigned to. I mean, Quinn Hughes was a great standout. I know he got the goal, and we'll talk about his goal a little bit later, but there was a point where he had 7 shots on goal and nobody on the Canucks had more than 2. I mean, we also saw performances from Brock Besser about how well the Vancouver Canucks were just winning the board battles at the end boards and then just crashing in, but also how Lundell has also made someone like Elias Pettersson look bad. There was one play towards the end of the game where Verhey gained the zone, waited for Anton Lundell to trail, and then going around Pettersson and just make him look a little silly there, but also about stripping of Pettersson of the puck quite a few times, pinning him, winning those battles on the half walls, and then him being rewarded on that power play where Carson Soucy goes for the check on Verhey. Pia Suter looks like he's about to throw one, and then that open lane towards the net, and then picking that far side for Lundy, just about anticipating play. And then for Lundy now just taking over in the absence of Barkov, which we'll get also Barkov a little bit later. But your boy doing it once again, 3 straight games with a goal.
Can we honestly say that this is the best he's looked offensively in his career? I mean, I know in his rookie year he potted 18 goals and he looked pretty good doing it, but I don't think that he's looked this in control and dominating in a way. He's doing it on both ends of the ice, and Florida has needed somebody to step up. I mean, Verhey hasn't hit the net yet. Rodriguez is not having the best start either. He almost scored tonight, and I know we'll talk about that as well a little bit later. But somebody's needed to step up, and it's their new, in my opinion, it's going to be their new 2C, and who just got paid. And right now, and I'm saying right now, we're not going to talk about recording like 6 months from now if something bad happens, but the contract looks like a steal right now. So other than that, I mean, if Florida wasn't going to win any board battles tonight, which they did not win a lot of them, you definitely needed your wingers and your centermen to be flush out onto the point and make sure that defense wasn't getting too much. And you know what? As a defender, I will let the defense have 7 shots over any of the forwards having 2 shots. Just means that the danger chances are not coming in and they're just shooting from the perimeter.
Yeah, but based off how Quinn Hughes plays and how he activates in the offense, just going in for him, man, that's one dangerous defenseman that you're challenging. But hey, you take that if that means that the depth for the other guys, they're not getting as much of those shots, which the Panthers for the most part were able to keep them at bay for the most part in this one for them. But for Sergei Bobrovsky, just save after save, especially I remember there was one post where Sam Bennett had it and Elias Pettersson had another. It was just like we saw goal shots at the goal line that were reviewed, and then we saw back-to-back plays on both ends of the ice of the posts for them. And also there was a moment in this game where also Sam Reinhart was knocked out for a little bit, went to the locker room, came back after Quinn Hughes scored. So that's another thing for the Panthers on just continuing to battle through without the top guys out, with the top guys out, and just still battling on. And just for this one, when you think about the point gain for the Panthers, I mean, this was one where you looked that you could build on for them. So that is what I'm really encouraged on for the night for the Florida Panthers here in their 3-2 loss against Vancouver Canucks. But we are going to transition over to segment number 2, where we're going to discuss more about our 3 duds of the game and the moment when we thought the game was lost. So we're going to transition and talk about that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. And Prize Picks is the best place to get real money in sports. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Just pick more or less on what at least 2 players and shoot up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. And you could get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's all guaranteed. Prize Picks offers weekly promotions that can lead up to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts and select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. And you can download the app today, use code LOCKEDONNHL, and get up to $50 instantly after you place your first $5 lineup. Once again, you can get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup, and you can do that all at Prize Picks. Run your game. And I'd like to welcome you guys back here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Fairbanks Friday edition of the show. The Florida Panthers lose to the Vancouver Canucks 3-2 in overtime, but do get a point in the standings. And for and Nick, man, Jake DeBrusk, he's still pretty salty about those last 2 playoff runs for the Panthers, beating them twice in a row. You saw that. I mean, the hit on Reinhart, I didn't think that was intentional, but then the run at Sergei Bobrovsky in overtime, man, you just sense the even though he doesn't wear the black and gold, you just see a whole bunch of bad blood between him and the Panthers.
That's why Evan Rodriguez went after him. I mean, outside of, just protecting Bob and everything, he knew who it was. This isn't the first rodeo with DeBrus, and just because he's wearing different colors doesn't mean that the history isn't there. DeBrus is a good young player and just decided that his time in Boston was over and he didn't want to be a part of that organization anymore. So, I don't think, as you said, that he meant to hit Reinhart. I think it was just an unfortunate collision. I still would have called interference on it.
I agree.
Because technically you can't hit a guy without the puck. Reinhart was kind of admiring his pass, but at the same time, the puck was gone already. You can't just hit a guy. So, I'm just glad Reinhart's okay and he came back. And, he was a definite big reason why the Panthers were able to get a point. But, yeah, you have to wonder if there's other Bruin players around the league or former Bruin players around the league that the Panthers are going to run into that they played against in the last 2 years, like Allmark, who got the better of the Panthers. If there's going to be a little bit of animosity or extra little drama in all those games, because you know what, their Boston Bruins couldn't get one over on the Panthers in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. And right now in the lead, Allmark is actually hurt. So I mean, I don't know on the top of my head the next time they play. So we'll see when that happens. And also Tyler Myers also took a run at Verhaeghe, but I saw the replay. The referee wasn't even looking in that direction. So that if you're wondering why there wasn't a penalty, he wasn't even looking. So can't call something that you can't see for that. But let's go to our 3 duds of the game for this one for the Florida Panthers. And it's funny because this is going to be you're going to see a little bit of a Jake DeBrusk relation based on Game 6 of the first round on where I'm going here for one of my duds. Number 3 dud, the pair of Adam Boquist and Nate Schmidt. A lot of lost battles that created opportunities on the doorstep for the Vancouver Canucks on the night. Number 2 is Sam Bennett for me for the amount of turnovers and the errant passes. There was one that he was trying to just chip it up backhand off the boards and then created an opportunity on a quick dish from Quinn Hughes to Amon, I believe it was number 88 for the Canucks. And Bob was really truly Superman on the night. And number 1, the replay system. I'm gonna go a little different here. And
so AI is a part of this now.
Yeah, so that challenge that Paul Maurice had with the Quinn Hughes goal on the faceoff doesn't touch the ice, touches the glove, and then Quinn Hughes shoots, is blocked, drives to the left wing, gets it through a screen to Sergei Bobrovsky, and then the Vancouver Canucks took the lead there, and right before Sam Reinhart returned to the ice for the Cats there. So those are my 3 duds. And how about you? And then we'll discuss more about the replay and our takes on it.
So I agree with you with Sam Bennett. I'll just put him at number 3. He started the season off really well, and he plays really well against Boston. But, a lot is left, that I think he can improve on. I mean, he's playing for a contract now, whether that's going to be with Florida. I know we've kind of discussed that, or unfortunately with somebody else. So you got to kind of think, what he's going to do over the next couple of games, because he's without Barkov, he's without Tkachuk. What can he do to make himself stand out in a positive way? So definitely needed him to be better tonight. My second dud is probably going to be Adam Boqvist. Maybe it's because I've expected more out of him, but I do not see the power play quarterback play there at all. I know the Panthers didn't really get a lot of power plays tonight, but I don't feel confident right now with him back there. I don't feel like he can win a battle down low. And when you have somebody who's just a power play specialist, last time the Panthers had somebody like that, and I'm going to say a name that is going to haunt a lot of people. Yeah, Jans.
Song.
Did not end very well, and was very well liked in the locker room, but not well on the ice. And then the number 1 I'm probably going to have to say is it's just hard because you don't really want to put this on anybody, but Carter Verhaeghe. I think I've picked him now twice this season on Fairbanks Friday, and it's just because he's not scoring. He's winning some puck battles along the boards. It's just he's not himself right now. And I don't know if it's because of the line mates that he has right now, or maybe the contract idea is getting into his head. I hope not. But Florida needs the Verhaeghe that they're used to right now, and he has not shown up yet. So until he does, to me, unfortunately, he's going to be in the dud list.
Yeah, and we realize more and more without Barkov of how valuable Verhaeghe's game as more of an off-puck type of player more than an on-puck and creating his own. So maybe that's a little bit of a product of that,
Yep.
as at least from what I'm seeing from his play. But your take on the replay, my friend, on the Quinn Hughes goal. I was not too pleased by that one.
So as a Panther fan, I'm not pleased by it. However, there have been some calls in the past where, I can probably think about a playoff game 2 years ago against Boston where I don't remember who it was, but they hit the puck with their glove and it went to a Boston player.
Jake
and they
DeBrusk.
Scored. Okay, then, we got
a
thing here going on. And they called that, and it was very minimal, the puck hitting his glove. But, they caught it, and they said, hey, that's a hand pass. Now you're at a face-off, and it clearly does not hit the ice. It hits off his glove, and then the play keeps going. I don't understand how that's not I don't want to say a false start, but how that's not a fault in the face-off circle. It's almost as like they're jumping the gun, and then they have to back the guys out and bring them back in or toss somebody out. But you know what? We're not going to win every single one of them. And if anything, I think I was a little bit more, concerned or not happy with the call about the wraparound that I think Rodriguez had, or the shot that Rodriguez had, that clearly showed to me that the puck did cross, but unfortunately, because the pad of Lankinen was in the way, you couldn't see it cross the line.
And Lankinen gets another win against the Panthers. He's now 6-3-2, I believe, against the Panthers in his career. So that's he and going back to his days when he was with the Chicago Blackhawks. So that we have seen historically, 6-3-2 is his record now against the Panthers for Kevin Lankinen. Moment where we thought the game was lost. I'm gonna make this quick. Really, it was the overtime winner by JT Miller. Great fighting off the check off Lundell. I don't want one play to say much about Anton Lundell's game. He was still great tonight, but great move by JT Miller to just on his offside bring it back to his forehand and then score to beat Bob there. That was my moment. I thought the Panthers were really going to steal this one. How about you?
Actually, just moments before that, I honestly thought the little Russell tussle with Jake DeBrusk after he kind of bumped in or ran into Bobrovsky, I think kind of unglued the team or unglued whoever was on the ice and everything. Just kind of the team lost a little bit of composure. Things like that are going to happen. It's not that it's on purpose. I don't think DeBrus really did it on purpose, to be honest with you. I think he was just playing hard, trying to get to the puck. But at the same time, you got to defend your goalie. But I honestly think just that little scuffle right there, the attention was drawn to that. Panthers kind of lost their thought process or their composure. And then, JT Miller puts a perfect shot. Nothing Bob could do over his blocker side. Similar to kind of what Lundell did in, I think, what was it? What was the last game that they played? Who did they play against?
Columbus.
Sorry, I'm blanking. Columbus. Yeah, his goal, where he went kind of like backhand, forehand, and shot it like right next to his skate. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
All right. But with the Panthers, they, like we said, they get a point on the night. We were pretty unbothered. Paul Maurice seemed unbothered about the loss and even about the challenge. Very, very even keel about the challenge, seeing if he could try to get something out of it. But hey, the Panthers usually have a high hit rate when it comes to challenging calls, something that Mike McDaniel could possibly use maybe down in Miami Gardens. But we're going to transition to segment number 3, where we're going to discuss more about the big picture of the Panthers and just and take maybe a little bit of a look around the league on what recent Stanley Cup champions are how they're currently doing in this first week and a half of the season. We're going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out all the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you can place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. If you want to put in some of your bets for some of the week 7 action here in the NFL, you can do so as the Dolphins are returning to action on the road against the Indianapolis Colts, maybe 1 week before Tua Tagovailoa comes back into the mix. You can do that at FanDuel. You could there are also some possible Super Bowl previews this week with the Chiefs playing against the 49ers and maybe even that Lions game against the Vikings. So maybe you could go to Prize Picks, and because you'll get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And you can do that all at FanDuel.com. Also, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. And the curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concert, comedy, theater, and more. The seat views, you could get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And the lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Third and final segment here on this Friday, October 18th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Fairbanks Friday as the Panthers lose to the Vancouver Canucks in overtime by a final score of 3-2 on Italian night from Amerant Bank Arena. And by the way, a little bit of housekeeping here for the Panthers is that Aleksander Barkov skated this morning. Very encouraging based on what we saw a few weeks ago, and could return when the Panthers do hit the road when they face the New York Rangers next Thursday, a week from tonight. So possible return there. And also the news on Matthew Tkachuk is encouraging that he could possibly still return on Tuesday. And Jonah Gadjovich, who played only a few shifts on the night, Paul Maurice said that he tightened up a little bit and that it's nothing serious for him. But Nick, I kind of want to take this a little bit of a pulse check, maybe just how we're feeling just about really the Panthers in this stretch, because 2-1-1 without Barkov and Tkachuk, 5 out of a possible 8. They went 100% on the power play on the night. They're 16 of 18 on the penalty kill through their first this first week and a half of the season. And then you think about, and then I think about just what's the conversation just about contenders and pretenders on like preseason expectations. When you think about the Panthers and just their injuries and them getting wins and guys stepping up, we've talked a lot about the Reinharts, the Lundells, and this is a continued conversation from what my friend Nick Zararis, host of Locked On Oilers and host of Locked On NHL on Thursdays, he spoke about the good teams, even if they're banged up, they find a way to bank those points, and that you're giving yourself a lot of margin for error. Right now, we're seeing contenders, at least how we perceive, be off to pretty rough starts. Edmonton, last time I checked, they're off to a rough start. McDavid and Draisaitl have a hard time getting going, but they did have a comeback against Philadelphia, which Matvei Michkov got 2 goals on the night. Colorado, they're a little bit of a different situation where a few years ago, the last 2 years, you weren't expecting Landeskog to come back, so you could use that cap space. But they're without Landeskog and Nichushkin, so they have to save up that cap for them. And then you think about Tampa Bay. A lot of people thought they were done. I was wondering, there's something in the back of my head thinking that maybe they got better because they got younger. They have 3 games. They're no losses. Nikita Kucherov has 6 goals in the 3 games. And you're just thinking about track record and just experience in winning for these teams that we just mentioned. And man, when you think about the Florida Panthers side of things, when you're thinking big picture, man, it's really great to see the Panthers bank these points, and just it's not a mirror image of last year, but then months from now, not if, when they go on a bad stretch like we saw in March of last year, we could look back at this and say, oh, you're on mute. Oh, there you go.
No problem. So I liken this to a small segment of what they had to deal with last year, where they were without Ekblad and Montour for a little bit, first 2 months of the season. And all we wanted them to do was just weather the storm, keep pace, or stay close. They did better than that. They proved they were a good team. Right now, they're without their best 2 players. They're 2-1-1, and they are on top of the Atlantic Division with, having the most games played. Tampa's played the least amount of games. It is what it is. But the fact is that they are getting their points now, and they're staying in games that, maybe in the past they would have no business, or maybe they would have one bounce here or there that would not, go their way. But this is a different team. We have a different set of players. We have a different attitude, and they have experience. So I think all those things culminated together have kind of shown that it doesn't matter what night and who plays. This team is going to try and gut out and at least, get a point or possibly put them in a position to win.
Yeah, and that's really, and thankfully for really how the Panthers are truly doing this is just how they're performing in third periods once again, even when they don't have leads. I mean, there was a stat on Bob and Spencer Knight on just how their their last 2 third periods. I believe it was 24 of 25. I forget the stat, and then still being able to go into overtime, where the amount of shots that were peppered in. Sergei Bobrovsky is still standing so tall in his net. The 5 hole is closed, getting on top of his crease, and everything for him, and just how professional everyone is in the room for the Cats. And just it's very pleasing when you think about how they're going about it, and then you think about other teams who might, other teams who they might that might contend, like the Dallas Stars. It's funny because Kobe Guy spoke about this on his podcast, Pucks and Palms, that he hasn't looked at the standings, and then that actually told me to look for the very first time, and then you see Dallas up there, Utah Hockey Club, which we knew they were going to be scratching the surface. We saw that last year before the news of the move, and then them going on a little bit of a losing streak after, but we knew that if they spent money, that they would be in a good position to win. And then just overall for the league, I mean, it's too soon to overreact to a lot of things. I mean, I think Carolina is in a place where, I mean, they've only played 2 games, man. But
yeah,
the jury's still out on them. But the expectations, a lot of us are not as high as we had in previous years. So that's also a little bit of a sitting back and let things play out in at least in the rest. But the Panthers doing their job.
They are doing their job, and you talk about the Carolina Hurricanes. They've only played 2 games, and that the noise isn't really around them this year. I think that probably could benefit them, to be honest, because the last couple of years everybody's put them as a cup contender, including myself. But just something about the Eastern Conference Final, they can't help but be swept. So they've got to figure things out, and if less press or less being in the limelight helps them, I think that they could go a long way. But the path to the cup is still through Florida, as far as I'm concerned. Anybody in the league, I really don't care. I don't care if it's Dallas. Everybody's on that train right now. It's still Florida. They've proven it. So last thing I'll leave with you is the good teams find ways to win no matter what. They don't make injuries an excuse. You couldn't say that about Panther teams in the past. An injury to Barkov or to another star player, you didn't expect to win. You didn't expect it to be a fair, close game. But now you see the maturity of not only the players but the organization and those expectations coming along with it, and it's really nice to see. Not everybody freaking out about this loss or that they've lost the last couple games. They see what the big picture is. We know what they want to do again. And if they want to do that, they have to keep this mindset that they have right now, and they'll be fine.
And I can't finish this without mentioning Calgary. What a start for them.
I wonder who's helping.
I wonder, is Jonathan Huberdeau back? three goals on the season for him as of right now. So hopefully we see more of that, and we see him bouncing back. And hey, Mackenzie Weegar, he's taking more of that responsibility on special teams on the power play. So maybe in a year where we thought that it was another rebuild year, they're so far proving people wrong. So but hey, but speaking of another going from someone that we thought was a pretender to the Panthers' next opponent in the Vegas Golden Knights, man, Eichel, Stone, Ivan Barbashev, they are on fire. The goaltending might be a little skewed as far as the save percentage because their very first game, Avalanche Golden Knights, it was an 8-4 final, Vegas winning. Started off winning 3 in a row to start, but they faltered the last 2. They actually surrendered a lead in the final 3 minutes. They went from 2 points to 0 in the final 2 minutes with the Tampa Bay Lightning coming back. So that they're going to have a pretty a team that's pretty PO'd after tonight. And Saturday is a Pink at the Rink night from Amerant Bank Arena. So something to prepare for the Panthers in their 2023 Stanley Cup final rematch. But hey, this matchup for me looks a little different now that you can look up in the rafters and say, although they lost, they found a way to bounce back.
It was all about a learning experience, and they did everything they could in 2023. It was a surprise, a Cinderella story. they gave everything they could, and Vegas just was the better, healthier team. And then 2024, nobody was stopping that team. Nobody. So when Vegas comes into town, you still don't have Tkachuk, you still don't have Barkov. Who's going to step up now? Who's going to be the next guy to step up? Is Verhaeghe finally going to get off of Nick's 3-dud list? Is Rodriguez finally going to score? Or go ahead.
Which Erod was great tonight. Outside of the review, I thought he was a lot stronger tonight. So he probably hurt us.
No, I hope so. I mean, he came home and went straight to the rink with his kids and had a good time. So that always it's a good thing to re-energize yourself with. But it's going to be a good game. I just think the defense needs to clean themselves up. I think Boquist and Schmidt need to be better because those Vegas boys are going to be coming in hard on the forecheck and hitting. So I just hope Florida's ready for a tough match, and they're up for it.
Yep, and those are always entertaining. But hey, the two players that the Vegas Golden Knights got from the expansion draft, 2 years later, they're gone now from that championship team. So now we don't have to see them on the other side of things with Marchessault now going to Nashville. And I believe where's Riley Smith now? Is he in New York?
No. Well, yes, he is in New York. I'm sorry. He was traded to Pittsburgh last season, and then he signed with New York, or they traded for him.
Yep. He's on the New York Rangers. So yeah, we don't have to see them on the other side anymore for in that matchup, and we don't have to think about that horde 2017 expansion draft. But Nick, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Another successful Fairbanks Friday here on the show. So tell everybody where they can follow you online, my friend.
No, Armando, thank you again for having me on, and everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed the show today. You guys can follow me on X at Prudential0. Looking forward to coming back next week when we have our captain hopefully back in the lineup. So I'm looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it, my friend. Thank you so much, and see you next week.
I'll see you next week.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Nich Fairbanks, and you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.